Green. That's okay. You don't want me to don't talk like that. My super short show. It's the Fairen show. My super short show. Oh, I can't even
delay.
get.
Turn it up, girl.
Yeah. Don't put me out here like that. Honey already said we live. Oh. So, we can see. We can give people a couple minutes. See if people join. I'm gonna go share it on my regular page too. I hope Austina was watching and she can hear me say it's crazy how she didn't answer the phone when I called.
Whoever else is supposed to be here. I feel bad.
Austina. Oh, I like this. This sounds good. I just want y'all to know if y'all have not wrote me to go ahead and have your business featured, you can go ahead and you should do that.
Oh.
How do you see who's on it? How do you see who's on it? Can't see. Oh, well, hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Love Thy Belly podcast. This is our third, fourth video. I actually cannot. However, we have been going live recording these episodes on the Fairen Kia Facebook page for a while now. So if you haven't checked out an episode and this is your first episode, welcome and thank you. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Go ahead and like this page, share the live, and comment as much as you like. I'm going to do a little bit of multitasking of answering comments and my phone and asking my amazing guests questions, which these are some very, very special guests of mine. We are here to discuss all things Black, all things gay, all things proud, all things live.
I thought you would say loud.
I just said loud, didn't I?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
We have a very special guest, Ashley,
Hello, hello.
and another special guest, George.
Hey there.
And Ashley and George are very special people to me in my life as a whole. We went to college together. That's where we all met. And we've shared a lot of different experiences through college. And these are two of the first people that I came out to whenever I came out a few years ago. And so that's what makes them extra special for this episode and then also in my life. So thank you all for being that safe space for me to have somebody to talk to when I was learning and exploring something different than I had known that I never knew about myself. We should get into my hair real quick though. Shout out to the Soft Locks by Courtney for getting me all the way together for Pride Month with this beautiful long blonde tresses and their extra gay rainbow colors that I love.
Loud and proud.
See?
Right.
Do you see? So y'all saw where I'm going? All right. So
Just a
we
little
can go ahead.
razzle-dazzle.
little slash. We can go ahead and get into it, right? We here, we queer. If you identify as queer, I do. I just wanted to say that because it rhymed. And then, but George, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm George. I went to University of Louisville. I'm currently a graduate student. I also currently work as an academic advisor in higher education. And I mean, yeah, I'm a pretty chill, fun guy.
Super fancy. Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So my name's Ashley Hazley. I will receive any pronoun said in love and respect at the moment. At the
So
moment.
that changes, though. You let people
Yeah,
know.
of course. I'll let everyone that needs to know. I work in the youth development space, as well as some DEI spaces, and I also bartend, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh, bartending. So let's see. Today's the 12th, so we've been 12 days into Pride. How's bartending during Pride Month been for you?
I've had a couple receipts that say Happy Pride, and the tip was real cute.
That's
So
what's
I
you
love
know,
that.
no, of course.
I love it. Has anybody been telling y'all Happy Pride?
Yes, actually.
Nobody has told me.
Happy Pride Fair.
When did you get the locks?
Yesterday.
Okay, that's why.
So, okay. So I had to post a picture of
Yeah,
of the.
they had to. Yeah.
So they don't already know.
I mean, it's just the cue, right?
Sometimes you just gotta let it sink in.
I know, right? It's almost like you being like passive aggressive, like, oh, see how I haven't said anything yet.
Oh, so I should post a picture and be like, wonder when I'll hear it.
Exactly.
Swings her.
In case you all were wondering, somebody can be in the comments right now saying Happy Pride Fair, and I would like that very much. But let's go ahead and get into it. You know, get into the little nitty gritty of things. You all have never been on my show before, and I don't know if you've actually even gotten an opportunity to see the show, and that's not a big deal if you haven't. But really, it's just conversation. So we just chit chat, talk about all things that that are on our spirits, really. I'm gonna ask you some questions. If anything feels too heavy or feels too hard, right? Sometimes these topics can be very sensitive, and they might be even emotionally triggering in a lot of senses. So if that happens, just let me know. Anybody in the comments, if you're wanting to share anything, I keep looking down at that screen, and I really need to look up. If you want to share anything, you have a story that you want to share or an experience or something that you want to talk about, and you want me to say it on live, just go ahead and put it in the comments and let me know, and we can do that. So whichever one of you wants to answer, age-old question, what is your coming out story?
Ashley?
Yeah, so I probably would say that, like, throughout parts of middle school and into high school, like, I was pretty aware of, like, some sort of difference. And then in hindsight, I don't like calling it that, but, like, that's what I became aware of. So I actually have a really good friend, Alex Clayton, and he was already out, and he was the only one that I knew that was out. In retrospect, there were a lot of little queer babies in my friend circle, but nobody was ready to, they weren't there yet in their journey. Yeah. So I remember I actually would message Alex on Skype or Uvu, if anyone remembers.
Oh, man. Did you know? Was it Uvu or like OVOO?
Yeah. Like, Drake definitely ripped off Uvu.
For sure. I remember the video chatting, essentially.
Exactly. But I remember messaging him, like, often on Skype and Uvu just about, like, this person's kind of cute, or like, ooh, what does this mean? And me and my mom actually shared a laptop, so she found all of my messages. And that started my coming out process. And so that was the summer before I went to college. And then following that, I started telling some of my high school friends, because I was like, I'm not going to see y'all ever again. I need you to know the real me. And so those reactions, like, varied anywhere from, like, duh, to, like, I have a friend who started, like, cyberbullying me.
A friend?
Ex-friend.
At the time,
a friend. Yeah. Oh, wow. And so that was an interesting, like, kind of transition, because it was happening as I was transitioning to college as well.
She's not going to tell me the friend's name. I know that.
I'm not going to tell you the friend's name. I'll tell you.
Should.
I should. But so at that point, I, was going to college. So that transition was happening. And so then I was like, it feels just a little tad bit deeper than just, like, liking people. Like, it was, for me, there was also some gender expression stuff that I was trying to figure out. So I went through a real long journey before I got to, like, where I am right now. But I think that's kind of the highlights of my coming out story. I feel like I'm continuously in one. I feel like it's a journey that I'm still kind of navigating.
Yeah. Consistent journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ashley on that. I do feel like it's kind of like anytime you meet anybody new, almost sometimes you feel like you have to, like, come out to, like, everybody. But I mean, mine was pretty. I don't know, it was pretty weird. I guess I was dating my first little boyfriend or whatever. And I remember we used to just, like, do stuff together, and he would, like, hang out with my family. And then I remember my mom and dad were separating at the time. And I stayed at my dad's house, and he had asked me, like, oh, you're talking to anybody? You got any friends? And I'm like, oh, I'm just busy with school, And then it just kind of was one of those things. So he was like, oh, I thought you and such were together. And I just kind of, my heart stopped a little bit. And then I just remember, like, no, what made you think that? And then kind of went and talked to him about it. And I was like, my daddy asked me if I was gay today. And I didn't know what to do. And so it just kind of turned into that. And he was like, well, do you want to tell him? And I was like, I would like to. And then he was like, oh, if you tell your dad, I'll tell my mom and stuff. And so that's kind of how it happened. I went in his room, and I was like, hey, Dad, you was right. And he was just like, yeah, I know. And he was like pretty much saying, me and your mom talked about it. And you got I'm going to give you a few days to kind of tell her, because, they were going through whatever. And he was like, I don't want to think I went behind her back, because we had planned to talk to you together about it and stuff. And so I remember she had picked me up, and I was like, Daddy had the nerve to ask me if I was gay. And she was just like, and what did you say? And I just remember that I was cracking up. And then I was like, well, let me start from the beginning. And I kind of told her the story and stuff. And then, it was kind of, they both were pretty accepting and chill with it. So it was pretty dope. But I still got knots in my stomach for, like, a long time after that. Even after any time it would come up with them, I just still feel like a sense of just, I don't know, just it was different. Yeah. But yeah, definitely got used to it though. Yeah.
So I'm what people, I guess, would call, like, a baby gay, or, like, newer to the scene. Don't do that.
Oh yeah, you did beat your face.
I came out in 2016, so this was shortly after I graduated from the University of Louisville in undergrad. And what was funny is that a lot of people told me, they were like, well, mostly my friends, not my family, but my friends were not shocked at all. I have a tattoo on like the back of my neck, like underneath my neck, on my back, and it's a rainbow infinity sign. So like everyone who ever saw it, they just like assumed that I was LGBTQ of some sort, and I was like, I mean, I guess I don't know. Like it could be one of those things where like maybe I always was, but I just didn't know it for myself. So in 2016, I started dating my first woman, and that's when I realized I was like, oh, yeah, no, I like more than that. And as I progressed within my dating life, I started dating a myriad of people after that. And so I personally identify as queer because I base a lot of like what I like in terms of my dating life and in terms of like who I'm attracted to. I don't necessarily like have a specific look or aesthetic or type of person that I'm attracted to, or gender or non-gendered person that I'm specifically attracted to. But yeah, my story, it wasn't, luckily for me, I felt very supported by my friends. And in terms of my family, it was just kind of something where I said it, and then I just kind of left it at that. My family's not the type of family that didn't support me at all. It's more like we just don't talk about it. So like, if I bring somebody home, it's like, oh, that's your friend. Or is your little friend coming? Or something like that. So it's not that they don't support me. They just maybe not necessarily understand enough to use very like specified language. So do you all feel like you've had a very supportive system in like, well, I want to also be clear, like you don't have to come out, right? Like, because straight people and hetero people, they don't have this like, when did you find out you were straight? Or when did you find out you were hetero?
It's funny because actually, what made me laugh when you called yourself a baby gay was like next when you knew the year. Because I would have to like take a second and be like,
right.
Hold up. Oh, right. 2010.
So?
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I don't know if I'm still considered, am I still a baby? It's been a long time now.
A toddler guy.
I
don't know what else.
I'm in my training wheels
Oh, no. She's definitely a teenager.
Lord.
Yeah, she's in that stage.
Oh, there's lots of language.
Yeah, you're a little rebellious one.
This feels personal. I feel like a personal. Did you feel like it was a personal attack? That a little specific. Maybe Ashley's trying to meet me outside later or something.
No.
Very much something.
I lived with you during your coming out phase, so I don't need to see you outside. Roommate.
Wow. We
did, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was a teenager then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was.
You were not mentoring
Worse.
well. You were not mentoring well.
No. I was seeking guidance.
Meanwhile, I was one of those people who, I feel like with men, for me, it was very easy to like kind of date men. I never found that very difficult. But then like when it came to women, I was like, do I say hi? Do I like, how do I hit on them? Right. How do I do this? How do I do that? We can come back to that because my original question was, did you all feel supported whenever you had started? Because you both said that it's a continuous, ongoing journey. Right. Whenever you started this journey, did you feel like you had support from people? And it might not necessarily be like your biological birth family or your living family, but maybe it's
I would say, yeah, both with biological family and just like friends and stuff like that. I feel like going to college was one of those experiences I feel like that really kind of made me feel more comfortable. And, I kind of found like my little tribe or whatever. And, just kind of found that safe space for me. And so I definitely feel like I have a lot of support and still to this day have a lot of support with that. So,
yeah, I felt like I had support. But, like, even when I think about college and, like, me having, like, another level of just, like, gender expression in it, I did feel othered, like, a whole lot. So it was almost like, yes, like, this is cool. Like, I support you. I'm your ally, like, whatever. But still very much, like, there's a difference that we point out about about our friend Ashley.
Definitely, I agree with that. Because I feel like it would be certain spaces too I'd be in, like some of my straight friends and stuff, and there would be just, conversations or whatever topics, and I'd just be like, I don't want to be here right now, just feel like out of place. And but not never that I didn't feel like safe in those spaces still, but it was just kind of like, I would be kind of just weary sometime of, certain situations, but yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay. Well, that wasn't a lot. Was that a lot to unpack for you all?
I don't think so.
No? Okay, good, because guess what? When we come back, there'll be things to unpack. So we'll be right back with a message after this message from some people who have sent in messages for us. Wow, that was a great conversation. But let me and Portia tell you a little bit about what we've got coming up for you all. We got the baddest, the biggest, the boldest, and the loudest party coming to you this summer. Portia, what we got going on?
So on June the 25th, we're going to be right here at Good Lowe's Bar and Grill. Black Girls Conquer All and Love Thy Belly are teaming up to bring you a day party like no other day party. What y'all say, we outside all summer?
We outside for this Purple Rain experience.
So make sure you meet us here on June the 25th at 3 p.m. right here at Good Lowe's Bar and Grill. I know y'all heard about their food and their drink. So yes, meet us here. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have live performers, body art, Pretty J on the ones and twos, and a couple more surprises. Y'all just gotta come to see it, okay?
Go ahead and beat us here, and we'll see you there. Wow. Well, look at that. We have the first ad featured on the Love Thy Belly podcast. Yes. Make sure you all do check out the day party. I hope I see you all there. It will be this month, June 25th. So in case you missed out on the ad, the brilliantly shot ad, make sure you do go ahead and check out any of my social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and otherwise, to find that link to come to the Purple Rain Day Party on June 25th at Good Lowe's Bar and Grill. So I told Ashley and George we're going to be getting into some of the seriousness and some more of the nitty-gritty of being Black and being LGBTQ and how there are levels to this shit. So when do you feel like the intersectionality of being Black and being the manner in which you identify have affected the way you move through this world?
That's heavy.
I told you.
So you're saying like, when did I feel like, how do I feel like it's affected how I move through the world? I think like, just like kind of like a blanket statement, being Black and identifying as LGBTQ, can be, when you're in spaces, especially like heavily cis and white spaces, it can be some of the most like psychologically violent things that you can experience, right? Because you are, so much of like who you are is a resistance to like cis culture, straight heteronormative culture, white supremacy, and you're having to like figure that out all at one time. So I think almost for me, being this way has like being this way, that sounded wrong. I love myself. Being Black and queer had like built up this like pessimism in myself that then I have started this really lovely journey of like figuring out like radical joy to like make up for that. Because I did for me, probably like 2016 when you were probably like 2016.
Oh, that's why you were able to do
17.
That's why you were doing too much mentoring and guidance.
Right. I was mad. I was really angry.
We had
I was really angry. And it took me like trying to like really align myself with whiteness and straightness to get like to like look back and be like, oh, this is horrible. And like nothing's ever gonna make sense if I keep trying to force myself into this box that other people can like understand and accept.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know, like kind of how you said, it is draining sometimes in certain spaces, in certain places, and people you interact with, like, But then at the same time, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing too. At the same time, because it's just so much like just dopeness that comes out of it. But I don't know. That's a really tough question. I'm still sitting over here, still processing
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I think it really just depends on certain places. Like I said, it is important, I feel like, to have a place where you do feel safe and you do feel you can express yourself however. But
Sometimes for me, it feels like not so as someone who's cis, which is the term that Ashley used, meaning that I present in the gender identity that's assigned to me. So like I am a woman, I identify as a woman, and I present in the aesthetic that women are traditionally identified as presenting in. And so being cis, I get to move through the world very, very differently. I don't know, and you might not even remember this, but one time we had a conversation about being able to be in spaces and the fact that you present more masculine that kind of hinders you from having things go in a certain way for you. Like people might, and just to be specific, in the bathroom, right? Like when we go to the bathroom together, no one's looking at me because we're both going into the gender identified women's restroom. And because I present in the way that I do, then it's like no one's going to look at me.
Right.
But a lot of times they'll other you in those situations, which is why bathrooms really just need to have nothing on them other than a handle, so people can just open the door with their foot.
Period.
Because it's just the bathroom.
Like, you see it that way too.
I don't really, I don't care who's in the bathroom. Just
because I'm gonna go in the stall and then I'm gonna wash my
hands when
hands.
you leave, right?
All going in there for the same purposes of relieving ourselves in some type of way. We can talk about it in a different episode what other kinds of ways, but for the most part, we're all going in there too. So that's something that stuck with me a lot when we've had different kinds of conversations about like me having to even be aware of like the privilege that I have as a cis woman when I get to move through different spaces. But also with that being said, there are a lot of times where as a queer person in the Black community, I don't always feel like the mentality is all of us or none of us.
No.
And I think that, we already have this layer of having to navigate in these white spaces and having to navigate in these very heteronormative spaces. But now it's like when I'm going to the cookout or to the family dinner or wherever I'm going with my family or with my friends, I'm having to then also still have to be cognizant of, and maybe not me specifically, but if I am with my partner, then I do have to be more cognizant of like, okay, well, how are they going to interact with us?
Right.
Since we're here together.
Right.
And now it's like, yeah, we know you, we know Fairen queer or whatever, but like, we don't really have to see you with it. So, right. So then it's like, it has that layer of that added to it, like specifically for me.
Yeah, because I feel the same way sometimes because it is kind of like a privilege almost because like I moved when people always assume, like you said, like heteronormative, and so nobody ever really assumes. Well, sometimes they might assume, but a lot of the time, like even like women hit on me and stuff like that, and it's just but I know it is, yeah, and even in different spaces, like like at the barbershop and stuff, sometimes especially is one of the places where I felt like just kind of othered, just like. Many times, whether it's just like with conversation or just, being, just aware of my surroundings and different things that people say and how they feel about stuff. But I don't know. It is a privilege in some spaces, but then other times, I don't know. It just really depends.
No, yeah. Well, first I have a question for you, George.
What's up?
Have you ever had a barbershop voice?
What?
So
That?
no, but I would say a barbershop voice, but I'd say it on the phone with my daddy voice. So like I've been told before, like my friends, like like when you talk to your dad or men, I can always tell when you're talking to like a man on the phone because like your voice drops a couple of octaves or something. It's just like I don't know. It's I got
Do you
a
feel like
barbershop
you've been
voice.
aware of that adaptation you kind of made?
Yeah, and honestly, it's just because like I don't know, I've always just kind of been aware that I don't have like bass in my voice for real, and I'm cool with that. But it's it is something I was aware of. I think as I was getting older too, just like I go through drive-throughs and I get called ma'am a lot and stuff like that, and so. But it wasn't. I don't think it was so much in being aware that I was talking to men or like my dad and stuff like that in that voice until somebody called it out, and then I kind of noticed, and I was just like, well, but I guess it is what it is. I didn't really realize it, but I guess that does happen.
Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Nia. I just now saw you all had commented. We do have a question. It says, what are some of the challenges you face being Black and gay that maybe a person that is white and gay may also face? Or do you feel like the challenges are specifically different? I'll let you all think on that. I do think that it's very different. When you are white, you get to move in spaces in a way that someone who is not white does not get to move. And a lot of times, if you're white and gay, it may not be very apparent. And that's a weird way to say that, but sometimes some people are like, they can look at you and, in a sense, they might be able to look at you and assume that you might identify as LGBTQ. But if you're a cis white person, no one is ever going to look at you and just assume that you're LGBTQ for the most part.
Right.
And you're still going to get that privilege of being white, being able to move in spaces in a way that white people get to.
I think I think one thing that makes it difficult for me to find like full community within like the white LGBTQ space is because oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, if you are a white person that gets like is on this journey and starts to understand this thing about yourself where you're going to identify as lesbian, gay, trans, queer, asexual, intersex, like whatever, you go through an experience where you almost kind of like lose privilege. So like you still have your white privilege, but like that other level of privilege that you have to like you lose it. Whereas with Black folks, we don't have that other like level of privilege. So it's almost like you realizing, oh man, like the world can discriminate against me. Whereas like we've had to move through the world always being discriminated against. So while I'm not, I did a lot of this, which seems like we're doing the oppression Olympics or privilege games, like that's not quite it. But there is a really stark difference in the way that I feel like you perceive and move through the world with that queer identity when you still also hold the almost supreme privilege, right, of whiteness.
The white supremacy of
and
that privilege.
And even like when you kind of think about things as I understand them, so to the world, historically, the first thing that had to happen after colonization was we had to figure out who was less than, and so we create this like caste system where blackness is at the bottom. But then it's like, well, now all like the white folks at the top, we need to figure out who's less than. So then we start entering in like patriarchy and things like that, right? And even with some of the like erasure of culture that came from colonization, that is where you found a lot of acceptance of folks who don't identify as straight, right? Even if you look at like indigenous culture, like there were two-spirit folks, right?
Right.
But that gets erased when racism is taking the forefront.
Colonization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree because like it's kind of like you said, like it's almost like a hierarchy within like the Black community and in the like the gay community almost, where it's like race plays an aspect in one, but in the other is more of your how your gender identity or what you identify as, and yeah, it is just kind of it's different. I would say, I don't know, but
yeah, I think it's like obviously, or maybe not obviously, but identifying as LGBTQ does have its challenges on its own. Mm-hmm. But like you said, not having to have that piece of your race also being involved in that changes how you can maneuver and how you can exist in the world. And I think that that's really important. And that's why we did this episode. And to, I should have said this in the beginning, but Pride was started by trans Black women. So while it's always great to see everyone participating and everyone, celebrating their own identities and their friends' identities and their loved ones' identities, I think we should always be reminded that Pride was started by trans Black women and it was a riot.
Right. And like even to that note, like Pride was started by trans Black women, but it took the like acceptance into academia of this like pride flag that includes a brown and a black stripe years and years and years later. So it like takes like legitimacy of Black life, right, to even bring that narrative into the forefront. So no, it can't be the same.
So the challenges are different.
They're different,
but it's not to erase the challenges that white gay people and LGBT people also experience as well.
Because we're gonna I'm gonna be able to have an in-depth conversation about my queer identity with someone who's white and LGBTQ as well.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, like, that's like the challenges aren't so different that like we can't be in conversation with one another or in community with one another, but there just is a difference.
Definitely.
And additionally, 3 Black queer women founded Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
See, y'all be trying to sleep on us, and don't do that, Miss Mamas. Don't do that. I think a lot of what I try to do is I try to make sure that I bring awareness and understanding to different things that Black people experience, and then queer people experience, and LGBTQ people experience, as well as specifically for my platform that fat people and large body people experience. And I do feel like that within presentation of your aesthetic, a lot of times, if you are a bigger person who's in the LGBTQ community, there are different like names and titles that everybody gets for the different ways that they look. But I think that adds another extra layer of challenging within dating. And so what about, do you all have any specific challenges that you feel like you faced dating?
I would say it's a little bit like I said, like one part of it is just, like people assuming that I'm heterosexual some of the time, and so that's been one of the things where it's just kind of like, where it's like I feel like I get hit on by women more than men in that regard, but in the gay community, I guess it's something similar like that too. I wouldn't say I've had problems or issues with dating. It's just kind of like sometimes people make it very obvious what they don't want, and and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, sometimes it's hard to come, feel accepted within the community because you're different with, even in the same community. But
no, I struggled a lot with like body image things when it came to dating because like people, like I understand that I present more masculine, but like if you get to know me, I am extremely flamboyant. Like it feels weird sometimes to even say like that I'm masculine presenting, because like that, I don't know, I'm just real fluid. So
very much. I did say that you're masculine presenting, but that specifically in aesthetic.
Oh, for sure, no, 100%. But because I am like aesthetically more masculine presenting to other people, sometimes I feel like there's this like idea of like this strong cut, chiseled like individual,
right,
that people who I have been interested in have expected of me, that it just is unmanageable. Like it's not gonna work. And I spent time right before the panorama, like in the gym, trying to like get something going on, some cuts somewhere. And it was cool, but then it was like, I don't think I'm doing this because of anything internal.
Yeah.
And so like there was like an internal kind of love I had to find for myself that I think dating culture, especially in this community, like created for me.
See, I thought that like I expanded my horizons so much, so then it was just gonna be like, it was gonna be like, now there's so many options for me out here, but
But see, I think that's because Well, I think it's because like when you are so othered, like you try to find all the ways that you won't be othered. And so then you let that gunk in yourself. I had that gunk. Like, you let that gunk in yourself come out, right? And so it would not be a surprise at all to me that, like, that would be, like, the experience. Like, I thought, like, I expanded my horizons, but, like, I actually know because, like, everybody that you expand your horizons with, it has so much internalized oppression from their othering that, like, they need therapy.
Ooh, check. You know, if you didn't check out our last couple of episodes, we spoke very heavily and specifically about mental health wellness, and mental health awareness. So we have a question that we're going to answer after these messages from our sponsor.
Hey, Fairen.
So what we got going on for this summer?
So we got a nice little collaboration going on with Love Thy Belly, 21 Majestics, and In Fly We Trust with the Bad and Bushido, Volume 3. And, you know, we want to try to have a little silent disco for y'all on July 29th from 8 to 12, baby.
Here at Goodlow's Bar and Grill, address
627 North 34th Street, Louisville, Kentucky.
Meet us here for food, drinks, music, fun, and we also are going to have a little...
Hey, we ain't talking about all that. Just know you got to come up, show out when it comes to July 29th, okay? It's going to be a good time at the Silent Disco. Show up.
See you on Friday. Hey, I'm Tina. Okay, first of all, that's Alcina, public relations manager. Very cute in that commercial just now. So we have another event at Goodlow's actually on July 29th, a silent disco party. So Love Thy Belly and 21 Majestics will be having a silent disco party. So if y'all like to kind of vibe to yourself, bop to yourself, but like be in a crowd of people and vibing at the same time, make sure y'all check out the silent disco party on July 29th at Goodlow's Bar and Grill. So while we were away, we had a question that came up right before, and it's from Trey Hunter. Hi, son. You're still there. I don't know, but thank you so much.
Stop texting me. Go away.
Trey is a longtime friend of all three of us, actually. But I really like this question. So Trey's question says, is it challenging to have friends that are cis hetero people, but they want to ask questions about about being LGBTQ and your experience without coming off as rude, or I guess making you feel like this is a laborious thing for you to do?
I don't think there's anything wrong with asking questions. Like I said, as long as the person's comfortable with it. But I think it's one of those things, just being open-minded and being willing to, be uncomfortable. Just being open really is the biggest thing. Because I have a lot of friends who identify as straight, and they ask me questions all the time. But I don't think it never seems like it's coming from like a place of harm, or where they just like trying to be blatantly ignorant or anything. Sometimes they just don't know, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with not knowing. And really, that's kind of a way to build, just tolerance and people being more understanding and knowledgeable about things that they may not understand. So I don't think that's a problem at all. It's just about coming correct and coming for people who are willing to share those things with you, and not feeling like you have to force it.
Mm-hmm. No, well, first of all, Trey, what a question. I remember when you was a freshman, and we were just trying to make it at the Ville Grill. West Side.
With your milk card.
With my
boy.
Okay. Anyway, so I think if I have, let's say, two parts. I think if you have a relationship with that person that is strong enough where like they could ask you a really uncomfortable, vulnerable question, then the relationship should be established enough where that would be fine. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there are so many resources out there, even down to like, I watched this 15-minute short on Disney Plus about like coming out. Mm-hmm. That was amazing. It was super, super. Did you see it?
Nah,
I thought you were smiling at me.
It's really cute. You know what it's called?
I think it's called Out.
Oh,
it's great. But like, so there's so many things like that where low level questions, I would probably be a little annoyed. I'm like, you could have clicked on the like queer narrative section of Netflix and figured everything out that you needed to know, right? Or you could have like watched some YouTube videos, or you could have like read something, or you could like Google, right? And not that everything you read is true, but like you could have figured out some things on your own. So if you came to me like, what does queer mean? Okay, I'm gonna be a little annoyed. But if you wanted to say like, okay, I read that this was what queer means, and I know that's how you identify. What does it mean to you? That's really different, right?
So like your personal questions, and you're having like a personal conversation with your friend.
Yeah.
So then, I guess, I could agree with that. If your questions are, you wanting to have a vested interest in me versus saying something extremely general. And I might even say to someone like, well, that feels very general, so you can just Google that. Right. And then whatever, after you've done your own research, if you still have questions, then like you can come to me and, we can talk about different things together.
Right, yeah, because I feel like that's one of those things too. It's like you shouldn't expect someone to be like accountable for just kind of teaching you and letting you know things. It's like, you do have to take some initiative in the process too if you genuinely are wanted to inform you, be a little bit more informed. So, yeah.
What do you wish you could have said to your younger self? The real maybe gay. What do you wish you could have said to that person and where you were in your life at that point in time? Mine wasn't that long ago, so like, I know. What did you say? Don't talk to Ashley is what I should have told him.
Period.
Told her. Because apparently Ashley was going through it, and so that's why she couldn't provide anything. No, I definitely would just remind my younger self that even though I had all of these, like, because I went through this phase where I was like very heavily questioning my identity because I had this like idea of who I was so prior to that, and then it was like this very new thing was coming about.
Right.
But just really like encouraging her and letting her know like, hey, this is just like something new for you, but that doesn't mean that like there's anything wrong with this newness of these things. And I wouldn't, I joke all the time, and I'm like, don't do it. I'd be like, I would tell her, don't do it, run, stay where you are. But I mean, that's a joke. I love who I am, and I love the capacity that I've had to be able to romantically love other people and platonically love other people in a way that I didn't experience prior to. Did that help you all? Did it give you all some extra time?
I'm still over here. That was a really good answer.
I think I would probably say something kind of like, if you just can like love yourself first and like be patient with yourself and like have grace with yourself first, that other things will really work themselves out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just literally said that same thing almost in my head. But that's one of the things too. It's just like, just loving yourself first and not being afraid to, feel like you don't fit in or belong. It's like there's nothing wrong with you. You're perfect. So, yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yes. Have you felt like that you've been able to kind of very specifically point to something that helped you? Like from when you first were discovering these things about yourself till now, maybe like a book or a movie or maybe a specific musician or a genre of music or even a person. Was there something that you felt like was very specific in this aspect of your journey of life?
I would say there was anything specific, but I did leave out of my coming out story. I used to be like have a Lady Gaga phase, like when Born This Way, Fame Monster, all that. And I do remember before going into my dad's room, like swinging my invisible ponytail and was like, "You were born this way." And that's just always like a memory that I have. But yes,
so knowing George personally makes that story significantly better.
That is amazing.
I can imagine.
Born This Way. I'm so weak. I think for me, it was like I would have these moments, and it's not ironic. It's just more amazing because we're all here together. But I would have these moments with folks like you all who were also in the community and like also. Are you not in the community?
Well,
who are also in the community, and are Black, and I would realize that I was being just like super unapologetically me, and like would want to hold on to those.
right.
So I think it was different people along my journey and remembering what it felt like to really be myself in that moment. That has been the most helpful. I think I also had a supervisor when I lived up in Indianapolis, which is in Indiana. But when I lived in Indianapolis, who was also like I could identify with in several ways, and that helped me immensely to see almost like it's possible.
Right.
Like it can be okay. Like that was also really helpful.
I think for like specifically us, there aren't really resources for LGBTQ Black folks, right? Like we don't have something that's kind of like just for us that represents us, and that's Black people in general. We tend to create our own spaces already, right? And so then when you are part of the, as Ashley says, of the community.
Say it again for the kids in the back.
The community. You then like you create your own spaces in that sense as well. And I think that's just kind of how we tend to operate in general. And there are a lot of resources and a lot of different organizations and centers and things. At the University of Louisville, we had the LGBT Center. And I spent a little bit of my time there when I was like, I didn't really know anything about myself in that aspect, but I knew I felt like there were a lot of people there who knew about themselves. And so I could like watch them or listen to them or be around them and be in spaces with them. And I think that helped me explore a lot of other aspects of my life. I had an amazing professor at U of L, Dr. Kyla Story.
Girl.
And I think, I didn't know at that time, but I feel like all the gays, all the queer babies, like we all gravitated towards Dr. Story.
I never even took a class with Dr. Story, and I was like,
I signed up every semester.
Story.
Okay.
I was in there.
But I remember me and you talking about it, I was like, so what Dr. Story class are you taking?
Right.
So like we didn't necessarily have like specific spaces for us, but we tend to like create our own spaces. At U of L, there was Blackout, which was the queer-based Black organization, people who identify as LGBT and were Black. And then I don't know of any like national organizations necessarily outside of that specifically are for Black and brown people, or even more specifically for Black people, because sometimes we just want to be around each other, right? There is a national organization, the Trevor Project, which is very helpful for LGBTQ youth. I haven't gotten the chance to work with them personally, but I have seen that a lot of different LGBTQ people definitely speak very highly of the organization itself. And so I know that is a national organization, right? So then they're going to have the opportunity to have a lot of accolades and a lot of people being able to look at them. But I think it is very important that you look at the grassroots organizations that exist within your community who are also advocating for LGBTQ rights and for the awareness and the overall equitable treatment, right, of people a part of the community. So again, if there are organizations and resources that are specific to Louisville that people know about, please let me know so that way I can make sure that they are shared on all of the social media sites that I have. And, letting people know that generally we get the opportunity to be a safe space within each other, and we get the opportunity to create our own spaces. These are my safe people, right? And, by extension, their people happen to be my safe people as well. And so if you don't have somebody who you can talk to right now, you definitely can talk to me, and I know these two people, and so I can vouch for them and say these are also people that you can come and talk to. Yeah, so we're going to have another commercial break. I got a little emotional thinking about young people, so we're going to come back and let you all know a little bit more about being Black and gay.
Essential oils. Guests also have the option to choose from one of my many signature teas or select from one of my premium cigars. While relaxing and enjoying music of their liking, guests will receive a shoulder, neck, scalp, foot, and lower leg massage to soothe and promote the state of peace and serenity within the mind, body, and soul. The most used, abused, and neglected part of our body is our hands and our feet. And so by adding this frequent reflexology service to your personal health and wellness plan, it will result in tremendous short and long-term benefits. If you fall under any of these categories or just simply want to escape the stresses of everyday life, book She-Flexology, because I am the reflexologist.
That sponsored segment that we have on the Love Thy Belly podcast. If you want your business to be featured, or if you have any event that you want to be featured on the Love Thy Belly podcast, make sure that you email me lovethyBelly1@gmail.com. You can also write me on the Fairen Kia Facebook page or Love Thy Belly on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. And I will do that all over again and remind you all where to find me. I wanted to thank Ashley and George very much for sharing a lot of sometimes difficult conversations, right? And, just being willing to talk about things that some people really need to hear. That there's somebody out there who needed to hear your story and needed to know that they weren't alone. As we know, suicide rates in Black people are skyrocketing. Some of us have probably very recently experienced something very, very close to home when it comes to people's mental health and them being able to survive right now. I mean, there's a lot of times I do joke and laugh a lot on the show, and I do want things to, generally feel fresh and feel lively, but there are very serious things that people are experiencing right now, and your mental health is very, very precious. And being able to find a space for you to go to kind of express yourself and sit and talk to people, because for whatever you identify as, the world is revolving and gas is so high.
That's why y'all need to be biking like me.
So high, right? So you're getting hit with everything right now. Everything. It's expensive to exist right now, and life is just lifing and rolling on. And so I do want to thank you all so much for offering that space for people to find that they're not alone, and that there is somebody out here who they can talk to or lean on, or reach out to, and things like that. So Ashley and George, is there anything that you want to tell the people before we head on out?
Golly, stay Black, stay gay, be yourself, love hard. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah. I would probably just say, I think from you kind of talking about resources and things like that, it is still hard to find resources that hit this intersection. And so for anybody that is listening, who identifies as LGBTQ plus and also Black, if you find that you have capacity to have an impact on the life or the lives of younger folks in this time who also are figuring this out and identifying in this way, I would argue that it's almost your responsibility to do that, because it is really, really hard. You talk about the Trevor Project, they do amazing work, but the work they're doing, so much of it surrounds conversion therapy. And it's dang, they still doing conversion therapy? Yeah, because it's covert as all get out, and it's happening to it's happening to our kids, right? Our young people. And you talked about suicide rates, the houseless rate of folks in Louisville. like when it comes to young people, LGBTQ youth make up the majority of that percentage. And if they were to continue to like desegregate that data, look at like black folks, I'm sure that that number would also be astounding. So just if you feel like you have capacity to support, no matter what that looks like, resources, kind words, gestures, like it's kind of like your responsibility to do that.
So your charge
Yeah.
for older people who have identified as LGBTQ for, probably the better part of 20 years or so of your life, it is your charge, right, to reach back and to help out the youth in our community. And thank you so much for sharing that information about conversion therapy.
It happens everywhere.
Wild.
To be a little specific about what that is.
Yeah, so conversion therapy, I would say, just more generally, are tactics to convert people from LGBTQ lifestyles, right? Some of those, and I'm not an expert at it, but I would say that some of those can be passive, like conversations, all the way up to actual like hands-on practices, and they are still happening. Yeah, look up the Trevor Project. They're doing really, really good work. And a lot of places you go, they'll be like, can you round up $1 to support the Trevor Project? Like, say yes.
Go ahead and give him that dollar. Give him that dollar. You have anything? Oh, you said thank you. Sorry.
Right.
Well, thank you all so much for coming on the show. Is there anywhere we can find you all on any type of social media platforms or anything you want to share about? Maybe you have some project or an event or anything coming up for yourself. I have something about Ashley I wanted to share. Ooh. Make sure that you find Ashley at Trouble Bar, especially during Pride Month. There might be something extra special in there for you. I know I'll be there.
Yes, you can find me at Trouble Bar. Actually, Trouble Bar is having an event called Hi Felicia Friday, and DJ Simone's gonna be there. So super excited about that.
Yes.
This Friday, 9 to 1. I can say this Friday, Sunday. The Friday coming up Friday. Next. Yeah. But you can find me on Instagram. It's at @AN_HAZY. If I add you back, you special.
You're so exclusive.
Private, please.
Yeah. No, I said me too. I was like, I don't know. I said, can they find me? No, but
George said you cannot find them.
Yeah. No, I'm just playing Instagram at sucklecree_everyday. Yeah.
Period. And you already know you can find Fairen Kia on the Fairen Kia Facebook page, just Fairen Kia, or Love Thy Belly LLC on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as TikTok are at Love Thy Belly. Make sure you check us out and come back next month for a new episode. We'll find out when you do. See you later.